All right, what's going on? And welcome to This Week with Coffee, episode 5. We got some nice coffee you're making here with the Orea pour over filter, or Orea V4, I believe this piece is right here. And then only complication is I don't have any of like the actual V4 or Exibris papers or anything like that. So I'm going to modify some old Chemex papers that I have from way back when to see if I can get this thing to work. So let's make some coffee. Got the coffee made, and despite how it looked when I was making it, because this thing turned into absolute, just complete sludge. I think I grinded just a little bit too fine, and actually turned out pretty good. And as it's cooling, it's not getting super bitter or tasting gross. So I think, despite how I had to kind of jerry rig the whole setup, worked out pretty good. So the beans that I'm drinking is from Cartel Coffee Roasters. It's a lighter roast, a pink bourbon varietal, and tastes pretty good. But this week should technically be week 6, but I got absolutely hammered with strep throat last week. I don't think I've ever had strep throat in my entire life, but I got it last weekend, maybe from one of the kids, maybe from somebody from work. I have no idea, but it absolutely put me on my ass for about, I don't know, 3, 4 days. And then really just recovering that whole last week, it just felt like dog shit then too. So, but we're back in action now. We're feeling better. That was kind of a big thing that happened last in terms of some new music stuff. I've been on the hunt for a boombox. I did find one at Goodwill, but I think the bands that actually spin the tape components itself that play the music. I think the one that I got, or the one that I bought, they're melted. I think I found a place on eBay that I can purchase them from them, and I can replace them. I just got to take this thing apart and see if I can fix it myself, which I'm fairly confident that I can. But finding the time and the the motivation to do that might be kind of sparing, but I would like to do it because it's pretty sweet. But it's a pretty sweet looking boombox. But I did go to an estate sale yesterday, and I found this guy. This is kind of like the smaller little brother to the one that I got. Probably a little bit of a newer model. And this one sounds okay. I think the other one I have is going to sound a lot better. Plus, this one just doesn't really look as cool. But the tape player works. I know for a fact because I played it last night. So I have the tape in there. But let me show you the other one, just so you can see. Just looks wise. The other one just looks better. So see what I mean? Not really too much difference, but I like the gray one better than the black one, just in terms of how it looks. And this one, from just playing a CD, it did sound a little bit better. I've only played a tape out of this one, but either way, fortunate enough to have found two different tape and CD players because I'm going hard into analog media, into owning your own stuff. I don't know why, but I've just seen some people collecting tapes and collecting CDs and stuff, and I already had a ton of CDs, but tapes I'm into. So I'm going on the rabbit hole finding new tapes. And speaking of other analog media, the wife and I went on a date night, and we went to a Brass Armadillo, looking for antiques and stuff like that because she's into the antiquing, collecting stuff like that. And plus, I like it. It's fun, just kind of random trinkets and stuff that you can find at places like that. But they also have some good vinyl. And then after that, we went to Zia to get some vinyl too. So here's some pickups that I got from those places. So Turnstile from Zia. It should be new. Yeah, I got Turnstile from Zia, Glow On. I'm gonna get all the records, but this one I really like, so I got this one first. Next one is Deftones Saturday Night Wrist. Yeah, White Pony. Next to that one, I think this is probably my second favorite, if not the one with the skull. I think it's at Minerva. I don't know, but this is up there in terms of one of my favorite albums by then. And Cherry Waves is probably one of my all-time favorite songs. Had to get this one. Then I got Chuck Mangione. Mangione. I know this is just jazz, but sometimes putting stuff or music like this, jazz or something that has no words, with the kids is actually a lot of fun because you put it on, you don't have to worry about what's being said, and it might be some kind of, since this is jazz, it's some calm, more calm or soothing type of music that the kids can just play to. So I bought this one because I thought it'd be fun for the family. The greatest or the best of Merle Haggard. Got Mama Tried on here, which is probably one of my favorite songs by him. But then it just has Okie from Muskogee. It's got Working Man Blues. It's got so many, and pretty much it's got all of his best songs on here. I'm not a huge Merle Haggard fan, but I do like some of his songs, and I do like old country, especially old country on vinyl. So that's why I wanted to pick this one. All right, and then lastly, Elvis Presley, His Hand in Mine. This is a pristine cover. I already own this record, but the one that I got from Goodwill, and it is just jacked up. It is, well, at least the cover is. The cover itself is just all torn and beat up. Because, I mean, this thing that came out, and it says 1960 on the back, so the shit's old. And mine is just seeing some stuff, you know? So I saw this one, and it was super cheap, and I love Elvis gospel records, so I picked it up. But look at the sleeve on the inside of this thing. Mine didn't even have a sleeve. I don't know if this is the original sleeve or not, but I mean, that's pristine in terms of how old this record is. So that's what leads me to believe that it's not the original one. But at any rate, the record itself this needs some cleaning. Is a little scratched, but again, my other one is even more scratched. So in terms of how my other one looks, this is damn near brand new. Yeah, you can't go wrong with Elvis Gospel, man. I love it so much. Plus, it's good to put on with the kids. The kids are just background music for them, and they'll play and hang out. Just good stuff. All right, last thing I want to talk about is reading. Now, I'm finishing up Dungeon Crawler Carl, which I've talked about like 2 videos ago. But I'm going to reread, I think, the next one. I'm going to reread an old classic, Obstacle is the Way by Ryan Holiday. And what I've really been dealing with personally right now is just a ton of the mental game, mental health, whatever you want to call it, just really tapping into positive thoughts and mantras and, you know, positive biblical talk, what the Bible says, getting my mind as strong as I possibly can. Once you learn more and more and more about how powerful the brain is, man, it just got me fired up. So that's why I wanted to read this. And there's a page, the guy's name is Drake Davis, but his Instagram handle is Sip Drake, and it stands for Stay in Process Drake, and he's a mental coach. And he had a book about how to read and really retain the information a lot better. Now, I had one of the ways that he said to read is actually something Ryan Holiday himself had said in like a blog post of his I read like in 2016, and he talked about how when you read a book, you go through and you highlight it, and you have note cards on the side, and then whatever you highlight, you write down on the note card and you file it away. And that's loosely the way that he writes his books. So I'm probably butchering his process, but he just has stacks of note cards that he has in a really organized file system. Then when he sits down to write, he pulls out those note cards. And then he also talked about a more lesser involved way of reading, which is just, you know, you're writing in the margins, you're highlighting, you're writing notes, you're dog-earing stuff to come back to it. Reading through the book, you should take notes, you should have a conversation with it, you should kind of really get into the pages so you can retain a lot of the information. That's what I want to do with this book, and that's what I want to do with any self-help book going forward, but this one especially, just because, you know, I'm doing stuff with YouTube, I'm doing stuff with Instagram, and X, and Threads, and I actually have a Substack that I started as well. I want to have a website, and I want to get really good at this craft of content creation. And what hangs me up a lot of times is sitting down and actually making a video or editing a video. So just really doing the process of getting this stuff to go out to the masses, you know, actually sitting down and doing the content creation itself. Sometimes it's not that I don't want to do it. It's just, you know, it can be a disheartening process to where it's just like, no one really wants to hear what I have to say. No one cares, blah, 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 blah. That's all lies. And my subconscious is telling myself to get me to stop doing what it is that I'm doing. And probably because I am on this path and I have had some progress, my brain's probably trying to protect myself from the new. And so I have to shut that down, get into the work, and just stay in the process of creating content and not caring about any outside, you know, any outside information of views or comments or whatever, you know, just continue to stay on the path of putting this stuff out there. This is going to be the next book I'm going to read. Dungeon Crawler Carl has been a blast. I'm not going to read all just self-help books. I think that's kind of silly, especially as I'm trying to be a more creative person. You have to read more fiction because, I don't know, fiction is just fun to read, and if you're doing something that's fun, I think it just helps you be more creative naturally anyways, you know what I mean? That's about it. This is a long-winded one. Coffee's been good. It's still hot. It is. It's starting to get a little bit more bitter, but still drinkable. All right, so I gotta go get my son a snack. I told him, give me 10 minutes, I'll give you some Cheez-Its so I could film this video. And he was a nice boy and he did that. So I owe my man some snacks. But yeah, that was This Week with Coffee, episode 5. I'll catch you for week 6. Peace.